So you might be in the market or you might be at church. And people will come there with these sinister, these evil devices, blow themselves up. Probably they have been pumped full of drugs, blow themselves up, and killing hundreds of people, innocent people. So that's part of the world we live in, right? No? Yes? And also you have, because of these crises and this kind of violence, people are running from their homes. It's also in Nigeria, by the way, with the Boko Haram and stuff. People are running from their homes, so they are depopulating where they used to be, and they are going into the urban areas, if only because law and order is better there than in the countryside, than in the other places, you follow? So you go to where there is relative safety, and you move in thousands, and you move beyond your own country's borders. And if you look at the geography of the world, Europe is an easy place to get to from the Middle East. Yes? Of course, some of them die because they use transport that is overcrowded. Eh? And in their desperate desire to escape, right, they take risks and they die. But immigration is a problem, right? Because the countries that are going to receive them have to cater for them. And if their resources, as they will claim, are in short supply, then they have to impose quotas and so on the immigrants. So immigration is a problem in this world, and it is happening right next door in the United States now. Now, we have had immigration into America for the longest while. In fact, the country was formed that way, through immigration. It's just that they want to put brakes on it now. And they are being extremely prejudicial to certain groups, like Muslims, for example. But they have not been the simplest piece of evidence to show that Muslims are causing terrorist attacks in America. There's no evidence. But the whole of the Muslim world is banned, or until the courts made, instituted a stay on this thing. And of course, you have the Mexicans along that border with America, and the new president of America, I can barely call his name. There's a wall that he wants to build, and to make matters even more vexatious, he wants the Mexicans to pay for it. Right? And of course, you do know that labor in the shape of Mexicans and other people is responsible for propping up the American economy. Because the Americans are not taking those kinds of jobs. Not only that, China is there, and China is the world's biggest market, biggest manufacturer. And Chinese labor is very cheap compared to American labor. So the companies have gone abroad, gone to China, Taiwan, and these places to make their devices to sell to the world. So that the iPhone that I happen to own, for which I paid about $700 US, if it were not for Chinese labor, I'd have had to pay about $2,000, $3,000 for it. Now, no economy can sustain something like that. I'm just saying that immigration has become a problem, and as a result of that, there is a lot of racism, and there's a lot of prejudice and a lot of bigotry, a lot of discrimination that is happening right in the bosom of the world's policeman, or what used to be the world's policeman, the country that is supposed to be the model of freedom, right? The hope of many a disadvantaged person from societies that are dictatorial and totalitarian, right? America, the land of the free, home of the brave, right? The land of the free. And the character of America is changing now. And minority groups there are finding themselves under siege because of new draconian policies that are being adopted and are being resisted as well. So there are people you have in America who might be shipped back home, yeah? And the people who are looking to go to America will be turned back, yes? And it's happening in Britain as well, because Britain came out of Europe because they wanted to manage, among other things, migration into their country, to have more sovereignty and independence in managing the inflows of people from there, because they don't think that the European Union is strong enough to take the kinds of steps that they want. So there's isolationism happening in the world. People are going back to the ways, and they are using, shall we say, some very desperate methods that had long been discarded. They are resurrecting them. And that's the world we live in. Now, by the way, the world is beautiful as well. Eh? We sometimes focus on the bad things, and Trinidad and Tobago is probably the best example. Our country, they say God is a Trini. You know, of course, that storms don't come to this country. When they come, they go through the Gulf of Paria. And if they hit the country, it's Tobago that gets hit. Not Trinidad as much. You know what I mean? And then, of course, we have freedom of religion, freedom of conscience in this country. You can worship whoever you want to worship. Nobody barring you. Isn't that a fact? Yes? There's freedom of assembly in this country. We can gather wherever we want. Of course, some assemblies require police permission. But we're there, yeah. Yeah. We have diversity, we tolerate diversity in this country. There's no country I know that does it as well as we do in Trinidad and Tobago. We tolerate different viewpoints, different ways of doing things, yes? A wonderful country, isn't it? Yes? Of course, there are issues as well. We have the crime issue. We have an education system that is dysfunctional, where lots of young people are graduating without proper certification, and so they're not employable. Yeah? So we have those problems as well, but we have the other side. Now, in such a world where you have, well, I haven't finished naming out the problems. There are different lifestyles that have, they always were there, but they were not as respectable. Like, you know, homosexuality is now acceptable. Sexual orientation, I mean. No, I'm not being judgmental here. I'm just saying that there are different alternative lifestyles now. And the people who are engaged in those things are not doing me any harm, because that's their private business. Yes? So they're not a risk to me. Yes? And they're allowed by law to be that way. In fact, there's a biological orientation that they have as well. So we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of these things. All I'm saying is that we have become more tolerant, or we have to be. Yes? And that brings me back now to the whole question of perfection. How do we, in this audience here, this gathering, how do we become perfect? Well, I want to give you some ideas. And they may not necessarily be spiritual ones. But it seems to me that we've got to be tolerant of diversity. That's one way of becoming perfect. In this country, we have to accept that there are differences that are legitimate. Yes, in law. And if we are that tolerant, that's part of perfection for me. Yes? That's one way. A second way is that there are lots of people who are living below the poverty line. They're living outside of the poverty margin. Right? Lots of people are earning wages that can barely keep them going. Yes? Well, it seems to me that we have to support those who are financially weak. We've got to come up with better systems. You know, in the days of when I was a little boy, we talk about these economies now where we rely on banks to get loans, to build homes, to buy a car and so on. But do you know, when I was coming up, I told you about the many kids already, right? You know, when you have many kids in the home, the resources are used up. And the bigger children get the best, right? The fellow who was talking about leaving the meat for last, you made that mistake, you didn't get your meat. You lost your meat. You know what I mean? And mommy had a way of making the smallest meal share. Among everybody, a magician, you know, those girls. So what I'm saying here, when I was coming up, we were not rich, but guess what? We had citrus trees in the yard, lime, lemon. We had provision, potato, cassava. We had the bananas and plantain. We had zabuka trees. We had cocoa trees. We had coffee trees. In other words, the yard had food. And of course, mango, before they start selling them. For years I couldn't buy mango when I came to Trinidad. How you gonna sell me mango? That knocking dog. And you want to sell it to me? I mean, the culture made me resistant to this idea that I should go into my wallet and pull out money to buy a mango and to buy coconut too. Coconut! You got coconut free of that? You made your coconut bake? Or do you remember those things? Everything has been monetized now. Every piece of planting, you have to pay for it. Yes? Every little silly table mango, little bar, whatever you call it, you have to buy it. You follow, especially if you live in developments where there is no land space to plant anything. You follow what I'm trying to say here? The economy has changed. But when we were growing up with, and mommy made our clothes to him, I remember she used to take flour bag and make the pajamas for us. All you remember that? Yeah? I'm just saying. But we were clean. Because we had rivers to go and bathe in, right? Not so? Right? We toted water from the standpipe. I know that was my job to fill up the barrels in the yard. The sea was right there. The Atlantic Sea. You know, Tobago is bounded on one side by Atlantic and on the other side by the Caribbean Sea. We ran down to the beach. We carried breadfruit. We roasted breadfruit. Don't leave home without the breadfruit, you know. The boiled and the fried breadfruit, yeah? Just saying, so we had food, yes? Of course, the boys had to be in one room and the girls had to be in another. So if there were 6 boys, all of them in the room there. And you spread a mattress so you put some old cloth on the ground and you go on. Yeah? And you sleep with the door open. I'm just saying that in those days, we managed quite well. Now we have to go to the supermarket to buy every living thing. Every blessed thing you want in the house, you have to go to the supermarket. Right? Of course, some of you, if you live in a place like Liberia, you probably have arable lands that you can do something with yourself. But where I live, I don't have enough yard space. In any case, the wife has taken the extra space to put her flowers. And truth be told, the flowers make the place look better. Yeah? But you have to go and buy food. Although she's doing a little thing, getting these little trays and so on. You know, these water pipes and so on. And making and planting lettuce and that sort of thing. But when I built my first house, I have 2, you know, I'm proud of that, you know. How do you think we did it? The foundation. We had a set of people from the village come in. You cook food for them. You buy some drink and the foundation done. You don't pay them a cent. Your foundation done. You get the expert builder, carpenter and so on, to build the superstructure. And then when the roof time comes, you do the same thing. So we built our homes cheaply through a process called Lenhan and Guyap in Trinidad. But those cultural ways of doing things are disappearing. They're disappearing. And now for my son to get, my son is paying a rent, you know. Big rent, you know. Because we couldn't allow him to take his bride to any kaba place. You understand me? My son couldn't take his wife and carry her to some rat trap or something like that. Can't happen. So he has to pay a little rent, you know. But he's singing a song now. Maybe I should come home back. Because I can't save. if I'm paying $4,000 in rent? I want to pay that money on my own house, but how do I get my own house? I want an HDC house, but you know the bacchanal involved in getting an HDC house? I didn't have that trouble. Just saying. I was part of a social movement that became a cooperative that bought an estate in Tobago, New Grange Estate if you please, and developed that to the extent that a plot of land, one lot of land, regardless of the size, mine by the way was 8,000 square feet. One lot of land, and you pay $7,000 for it. People power caused that to happen. Just saying. My son can't participate in that. Yeah? Yes? And his salary, I suppose is decent enough, but not enough. You know, two professionals come together, and sometimes the two salaries are not enough, given the circumstances. So, I'm just saying here, things are hard, but in order to be perfect, it seems to me you have to help those who are really at the bottom of the hierarchy here. There are people in desperate need, and the charities are important. New systems where you galvanize, you mobilize people to help those who are less fortunate in your community. I'm talking about community-based action, by the way, and you have that. That, to my mind, is perfection. You are comfortable, but you are remembering that others are not so fortunate, and you are taking steps to help. To my mind, that is perfection. Helping the man who is far less off than you are. Yes? A third way, of course, is to really love the children. If you love the children, no, I am very funny about children. I cannot take abuse of kids in any way at all. I do not believe in flogging. I'm sorry for those of you who think otherwise. I think there are far superior ways of bringing up children than hitting them. I think it's advantage, I think it's violence. So we love the kids by showing them love. And we develop ways of loving these kids, right? And we teach them to develop a moral sense by making them see different sides of an issue and coming to a judgment and helping them to make the judgment. Yes? The kinds of nonsense that kids eat today, we're going to kill these kids by the time they get into their 30s. All these sodas and sweet drinks and so on, and these flour-based tarts and cakes and sweets and so on. What is that? I'm afraid that when we feed our kids with those kinds of foods, we are shortening their lives. Not only shortening their lives, but we are making them unhappy and unhealthy because they get a lot of pain. A lot of kids are becoming obese. You see fat kids? Why should a kid be fat as a result of food? Not necessarily biology, not because of the genes. What they eat. Yes? They should be so active. I mean, so well fed they don't have time to settle on their system. Yeah? But that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, not only here, by the way, in America is the case too. That's why the former First Lady had obesity as at the top of her agenda as First Lady. But I'm just saying, so many younger people are eating trash that is licking up their system. The KFCs, I'm sorry, you know. Children should not be eating KFC, sorry. If you know what goes into what they are calling. In fact, KFC doesn't use the word chicken anymore. You ever notice that? KFC they say, but you'll hardly hear them say chicken. I think they are banned from using, in America at least, using the word chicken. Could you imagine that? Yeah? Just saying. We used to, when we were boys, we used to raise chicken and so on, you know. Yard fowl, you know that? Our own fowl, feed them with corn grain and so on. Can you remember that? Yeah, those are healthy ways of living. Now you have to go to the supermarket to collect drumstick and breasts and all that sort of story, and you're not sure how the chickens were fed. Yeah, and even if you're sure how you prepare it as well, you can't use every oil and any and every oil. You're going to select your oils carefully, and you have to reduce the amount of oil. Now that for me is perfection, knowing the right balances to have in the food you give your kids to eat. Yes, knowing that you have to sacrifice to make sure that they are well off educationally. I can't see how you could save the society, yes? And when they go to school, you monitor their progress. And you have a nexus between home and school, right? Because they are the most important things in your life. And you are going to be thankful that you did that in the years to come. But to my mind, if parents could get to that point, that is perfection. Another way is to get involved in what the government is doing. Now some people say it's politics and you're not supposed to get involved. But you have to show interest. You have to get your views be known. You could be respectful in the way you show your views. But you have to let your voices count where the decision-making process in governance in this country is concerned. Yes? The Baptist community has to do it. Everybody else has to do it. But certainly adults have to do it. You show interest because the decisions that are taken will affect your lives. Yeah? Now, I can give you far more. But if people can follow those four proposals that I have just given there, I am sure this country will in due course be improved. Yes? And I'm doing that in a context where I'm respecting diversity, as I said, and respecting different views. You know? We have to have a law and order. We have to have intelligence as well. And a lot of the behaviors in this country, frankly, are unintelligent. The way people drive, unintelligent. You notice how people drive, especially the women, sorry girls. They're the most aggressive people on the road now, I want to tell you this. I have found. I don't mean to have any bias there. It's almost as if they are paying us back for all the control we had over their lives. And they now have a new lease on life. So there is this, but also men drive badly too. But there's a lack of intelligence in the way we drive. There's a lack of intelligence all over the place, you know. And you will be behind the car, and an adult in the car in front of you has finished eating his KFC and flings it out the window. Now the way I know it is that I keep my box until I get home and get rid of it. You see, those little attitudes, and they are important. Now, my kids will never do something like that. Never. Why? Because of the way I train them. My kids don't break the laws of this country. I want to tell you that. Some of you can say the same thing. My kids they are not lawbreakers. We do not expense the state. But we do want the state to provide for them in a way that the state can't do very well. And that is why you have credit unions like Mount Pleasant, of which I'm the president. You know that, she told you this. Yeah? Maybe I should close with this. You know, there was a time in the early 1990s when the members of Mount Pleasant Credit Union were saying, look, we need to have affordable land and affordable housing. The government is not fulfilling that need of ours. What can you do? And as a credit union, guess what we did? Tobago at the time had these abandoned estates, right? With absentee owners who milked the land and then fled to England and wherever they went. You know how slavery was, right? Let us not soft soap it, you know. It's a very bad thing. So these guys, with the aid of the British Crown, had all these estates. And they were abandoned. Of course, they had agents and so on who worked on their behalf. And we bought, cut a long story short, Bonaccord Estate. All you know Bonaccord? Canaan Bonaccord? Right. It's cheap to go up on the boat these days, you know, so you go and see the land. We bought that and we sold it then at $5 a square for the first phase. And even then people complained. Because the idea was to sell it at a subsidized rate to the members and then sell another phase more expensive to cover the cost that the subsidy that we had given. Could you imagine? And some people did not take up that offer, but the point is, we did and we made land available. And people put down some big houses. Not only that, they also speculated. They sold the land after a few years for millions of dollars. Yes, folks? We were not satisfied with that, the credit union of which I am president. We bought Bacalet Estate as well. Or you know Bacalet? On the outskirts of Scarborough, where Scarborough has to go if it has to expand, because Scarborough is too cramped now, as you know. Huh? We bought Bacalet Estate. In fact, one of the things, two things we did at Bacalet Estate. First, the government took a piece of the land and built the Dwight York Stadium. And they have not paid us properly for it yet. You know the state does, right? And secondly, the Scarborough Health Center was moved from where it was in Scarborough proper to Bacalet as part of our land. Do you understand that? We provided the land for the Tobago House of Assembly to build a new and current health center in Bacalet. Now, you can understand how my mind works, right? If we can help our members to improve their lifestyles, well, that must be perfection by any kind of description. I don't know if it will land me into the kingdom of God, you know, or the green pastures that Madam Chair was referring to. I think she said somebody had passed on to the green pastures. You know, we must have a little chat about those pastures. They remind me of the Elysian fields that the Greeks talked about. You know, we paint a beautiful picture of where we land up when we die. And that, I suppose, comforts those who are still alive and remain. We who are alive and remain, you know that scripture? Oh my goodness. So, Mount Pleasant Credit Union, following that principle of helping their members, got land which they then developed and sold that once you could pay back your loan and so on, that, you know, people could handle. To my mind, you can't live your life, folks, without helping others. For me, I've been a teacher all my adult life. If it's one thing I can do, it's teach.